Welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Burrow. Robbie, Lastella, Kevin Fielder here, and a much happier Shula Bowl week edition following the Owls' 56-14 win over Florida A&M. It is time for the Shula Bowl. Kevin, welcome back. How's it going?
I'm doing well now because I don't have to imagine what this podcast would have been like if FAU had lost that game. The good news is there was never any chance they would have lost that game because I think it was 21-0 before I played.
Yeah, they got all three special. The special teams got a score. Defense was getting after it, and the offense was clicking on all cylinders. I had a couple expectations for that game. I wanted to see 300 yards passing with no turnovers. I wanted to see 100 yards rushing with 4 yards per carry, and I wanted to see them get their first sack of the season. They got two of those, and they hit both of the offensive check marks. So they did everything they could have to try to bounce back. They had a little slow start to the third quarter, which was Kitley's one negative there, but they ended up outscoring them 17-7, and they got five quarterbacks in the game, and the backups got in, and it was good. A happy ending for the home opener for Kitley, which was good. But now they got to go on the road, right? Last year was easy. FAMU came to the house. I don't think anyone blinked twice, even with struggles FAU was having last year. But this time, I think FIU has kind of picked things up a little bit, and this should be a game. Kevin, any thoughts on last week?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what you needed, right? You needed a get-right game. You needed an opportunity for guys to look competent and capable. And I think for the most part, the offense did. There were some slow parts. There were some parts that were likely aided because Florida A&M is not the most talented team you'll play this year, like just being honest. But I think what they did was they just controlled the pace. And it's something that, truthfully, right, like that's all you're looking for in these bye games. You're just looking to control the pace. You're looking to control the game. You want that game to be easy. And I love the fact that it was. I love the fact that I didn't have to worry, right? It wasn't a 14-point game in the third quarter with FAMU having the ball. Like this game was over in the first quarter. Like it felt like you could rest and just breathe easy. And that's what you needed. That's what you need when you play a FAMU, right? When you play these FCS teams in the first 2 weeks of the year. Now the games get a little bit more important. Now they mean something, right? Like this is now the opportunity where you have to prove that whatever happened in week one, because that's still on the back of my mind, right? Like whatever happened in week one was just a bad game. Because if it's just a bad game, that's fine. Can't be two bad games.
Yeah, that was important. Caden not turning the ball over. I think that was a concern. I was, maybe, week one, I was kind of like, is this offense going to be very turnover heavy? And although, it was FAMU still, they can make plays. They can still disguise coverages. Although, there might be a difference in the type of athletes on each side, they're still able to do those types of things. And Caden wasn't, baited into any kind of crazy interceptions or something like that, which was a good sign. He ended up tying the record officially. I checked with Katrina today. They never overturned that last touchdown. That was a fumble. Somehow that remains a touchdown for Caden. Yeah, home cooking. Even though, but yeah, nevertheless, he has 5 touchdown passes, so that stands. And so that's a little momentum to build on there. We've got 2 tied records in 2 weeks. You got the receptions and the passing touchdown. So they are fitting the bill of the air raid offense. And, the run game looked good as well. Again, the pass blocking was solid, but it was just Florida A&M. Run defense looked good 2 straight weeks where the run defense has impressed me. Even against Maryland, they were solid, although Maryland's offense was really letting it fly with Washington. They weren't a ground and pound team by any stretch. Neither was FAMU, but still you got to do your job. They didn't let off any crazy runs like that too much. I think there was a couple against Maryland, nothing, maybe 1 or 2 against FAMU too. But that's going to be key this week against FIU, kind of shifting gears a little bit. The Panthers 1-1. They dominated Bethune-Cookman week 1, and then week 2 they went up to Penn State. And to their credit, the first half it was a really good game. It was 10-0 Penn State. I say really good game defensively. You got to like both sides of football. But and even in the second half, although Penn State was able to run away with it, they were still able to run the ball. They were still able to attack the passer. Johnny Chaney Jr. Is a guy that looked the part of a guy
who has the coolest nickname. Let's just be honest.
Chainsaw.
Who has the coolest nickname in college football? Like, I know this is an FAU podcast, and this might be the only good thing I say about that team down south. Shout out Willie Simmons. Chainsaw is the coolest name for a defensive player ever. That rules.
Yeah. He's been a menace, and he got after Drew Aller, which I am sure Penn State fans were kind of like, what in the world is going on right now? Why is this happening? Gosh, help us. But they ended up closing out the game, and, Happy Valley can go party and do what they do. But I think FIU leaves that game with a bit of, they hold their head high, although they didn't score a point. If you're able to run the ball against a Big Ten team, you'll take that. If you're able to rush the passer against a Big Ten team, you'll take that. And so they come into this game riding momentum despite a 34-0 loss. Kevin, what's the thoughts on FIU?
This is a better FIU team than FAU's had to play probably in the last 5 years, 6 years, maybe even longer than that. Like, this is a talented FIU team. I get it, right? Like, they've had a very similar stretch to FAU where they beat up on a bad team and they went on the road against a Big Ten opponent and kind of got their butts kicked on the scoreboard, right? But I think that when you look at what they can do on offense, what they can do on defense, the amount of havoc they can create, this is a good football team. Like, I think it's just time to be honest about it. And I know that this is probably not the week to be honest about FIU, right? But, like, this is a good football team. This is going to be a dogfight. This is not going to be the 55-7 game where you just get to dominate, right? Like, you're going to have to dig deep. You're going to have to find ways to win because this is an FIU team who can do one of the most important things that good teams do, which is run the football. And they can run the football in a multitude of ways. Running back KJ Owens is one of the better running backs FAU will face this year. Like, it can just be an honest assessment. Like, I think he's going to be one of the top 3 or 4 running backs they will face this year. Their quarterback, Keon Jenkins Lights, which is where he's more eloquently called in FIU circles, is a dynamic runner in and of itself. Like, they have dynamic offensive running players, right? Like, they can run the ball better than most teams. They averaged about 3.6 yards per carry against FIU or Penn State, which isn't a lot, but KJ Owens, their backup, Devontae Lyons, right? Like, they averaged 4.5 or higher. Like, they averaged and they produced on the ground. And then on the defensive side of the ball, whenever you can get to the quarterback, whenever you can create the behind the sticks plays, it's a challenge for offenses. Like, that is the kind of combination that I think can give FAU some trouble. And it's why, like, when I look at this game, I'm not like, okay, well, this should be a blowout again. FAU's more talented. I look at the 2 things FIU can do and some of the stuff that FAU has struggled with, and I'm like, this might be a tough matchup.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Willie Simmons, right? I mean, I was thinking about this. I was like, I feel like Mike McIntyre was the color gray. Like, there was just nothing. There was just nothing going on there. I mean, I'm sure he's a great dude, but I can't. He just didn't seem like the type of coach that could, like, get the guys going.
He didn't bring the juice. He was just a good coach.
No, yeah, exactly. He might know ball, but it was just not. He was not the type of guy that could amp up a program that needed amping up, and it never translated into the rivalry. I'm sure they did things to get amped up, but didn't see it. And I think Willie Simmons has really injected life into FIU, and whether FAU fans like that or not, I don't know. They're not in the same conference. It's good for the state. It's good for the rivalry to be competitive. You want your non-conference games to be competitive because if you go into conference play with 3 cupcakes, what are you doing? So for them to have, an injection of life, that's a good thing. And I think it is kind of shown in these first couple games. I mean, I'm not going to hammer home what you just hammered home, but the run game and the pass rush has been good. And if they're able to dominate the line of scrimmage in this game, I think that will make it interesting. Now, I think with what I kind of have seen from FAU over the past 2 games, their strength has been the run defense, right? And so if they are able to continue that, if they're able to kind of replicate their success here in game 3, that will make Keon Jenkins have to be one-dimensional, and the FIU offense will have to find a way to get things done. And when that happened last year, FIU had no run game. Although it's different teams, same quarterback. He started to press a little bit. FAU's defense was able to turn him over. And we've seen FAU this year be multiple, just like Brett Dewhurst says, they're going to disguise things. They're going to run a lot of different things. And if the offense becomes pass heavy for FIU, I'm interested to kind of see if he's able to have a better performance than last year. Kevin, what's keys for FAU for you?
Yeah, I mean, if they can get you, or if you can get FIU behind the sticks, I think it creates a more advantageous matchup for you. I will just say I'm a little hesitant that like the passing game for FIU doesn't find its groove eventually. They're currently one of the worst passing offenses in the country in college football. They don't have this derp the talent where they're going to be this incredible passing attack. They're not going to put up 400 yards a game. But when we're talking about one of the worst passing offenses in football, it sort of feels like water will find its weight eventually, because I don't think they're that bad through the air. But you still want to get them behind the sticks, because that's where Jenkins struggled last year. That's where this FIU offense struggled last year. And that's where FAU wants to live, right? You want to live in that second and long, third and long, where you can pin your ears back and get to the quarterback. You can't get to the quarterback on 2nd and 4 because you have to account for the running game. And so I think the biggest thing, right, is just being able to generate some explosives early on both sides of the ball, truthfully. Whether it's a sack, a tackle for loss, a turnover, right, a blocked punt would be great again. Let's do that every week. That would make me very happy. And then on offense, right, like it's just finding ways to continue to produce on offense, because to some degree the explosive plays haven't been an issue for FAU. They had explosive plays against Maryland. They had explosive plays against FAMU, but it's finding a ways to turn those explosive plays into consistent offense, because it's one thing to have 2 or 3 explosive plays throughout the game. They don't matter if you don't find offense as well. And so I think the biggest thing is continuing to find that offensive consistency, still generate explosives, because those are going to be important. And then hoping, right, like to some degree, just hoping that this isn't the week where FIU finds its passing groove. Because truthfully, I don't care if they do it in week 4. That's not my issue if they do it in week 4. Great for them. You just don't do it in week 3. This game probably means a little bit more to FAU fans than FIU versus Delaware or whoever they play next.
Yeah, 100%. I'm offensively, I'm definitely kind of interested to see how they approach this one, because we saw it. The run game hasn't been the predominant side, obviously, as expected. But against Maryland, when the runs got stuffed early and they got put in the 2nd and 3rd and long, that didn't bode well for this offense. They weren't able to convert those 3rd and 5 pluses against Maryland, at least, that, you know, in an air raid offense, when the first run gets stuffed, you're going to have to do. And so this week, you know, if those early runs don't pop, first of all, I'm interested to see how FIU's run defense does. Penn State was able to bust off a couple runs. I don't remember how you did off the top of my head, but I'm interested to see how they do, because if Jamari Sands is able to generate 3 to 4 yards of carry on first down, and Xavier Terrell is able to pop in and you know, use his speed to generate big runs every now and then, and so if they're able to do that offensively and set up third manageables, I think that sets them up for success. But if Caden's in you know, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6 plus, that's when a Chainsaw and the rest of the crew get after him. I don't know, Kevin. I mean, I feel like our offensive line was tested somewhat against Maryland, but I feel like even then, I don't think Maryland was going crazy with it, and FAMU had no rush. I feel like, to me, in this game, FIU's pass rush is going to be the X factor. Because this is going to be the first test, and I didn't think it would come against FIU. I figured, you know, Memphis has some good pass rushers, Tulane too, but the offensive line, it's got 80% of guys who have been here now a year. You got the center, Vinny Fiacable, who was at Indiana. I feel like this is a put-up game for an FAU offensive line right here. Well, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is. This is the game where you have to show that your offensive line is revamped and it's what it needs to be in the American. Because, like you said, this is probably its first true test. FAMU had some good pass rushers. I think when that game is over, before it even starts, right? Like, it's kind of tough for those guys to impress. Maryland didn't do a lot pass rush wise. You kind of beat yourself in that game. I went back and I watched some of those clips again, and every single time I felt like I was saying, yep, FAU beat themselves. Just couldn't get off their behind and get going on offense in week one. This is really the first week where you're going to have to deal with a dynamic pass rusher who is capable of really changing the game. And if you let those guys get going, if you let those guys, just like FAU's offense or defense, get into third and longs, get into even third and mediums, where it's pass rush, pass rush, pass rush, and it's, hey man, I got to get to the quarterback. Oh boy, I'm a little scary about how this offense looks, because it doesn't feel right now that they're an offense that can really function behind the sticks consistently. It doesn't feel like when they get to 2nd and 14 or 2nd and 12 and then 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, that they're going to consistently get first downs and keep drives going. You need that in the American. You need that against this FIU team, because you're going to be behind the sticks. Not everything's going to be perfect against this FIU team. The one thing I will give them credit for, they looked like a better coach team than I've seen out of FIU in years. And I've been covering this rivalry for probably 6 years. This is the best coached FIU team I've seen in those 6 years. And I think that's the biggest difference, is that they're well coached. They've got some pass rush. And if you let those guys tee off, it can be a really scary night. And so I do agree, right? Like, this offensive line, which isn't completely new, but has some new pieces, has a new offensive line coach, is still trying to learn the system. It's time to show up. Like, we've talked about show me, don't tell me before on this podcast. Show me. Because now it's time for you to show me that this offensive line is ready for the American. Because this may not be an American defense. They have an American pass rusher.
100%. Just to give you some numbers, I've been giving Johnny Chaney a lot of credit, but he has just the 3 pressures. Obviously, he's been, a force for them. But they've got, Josh Roberts had 3 in the last game alone for FAU, but they have on the year 39 total pressures according to PFF. They've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys with 2+ pressures so far in the year. So they're not going to be relying on one guy. They've got a lot of different ways to generate pressure, which I think is impressive. So, I haven't looked at an FIU team in a while and been like, wow, I'm impressed with this unit. So credit to them. Maybe they take some notes and, see what happens when you make a coaching change. Look at their basketball team. No, I'll just, I'll leave. That's an unnecessary shot, but still, like you said, I think it's been evident how much they've changed in just one off season. So, I'm kind of getting into it a little bit. Predictions. I'll go first. So I will be taking FAU in this game. I am going to, base it on the fact that FAU has shown that they are capable of stopping the run. And so that, in my opinion, will help them defensively. Even if FIU is able to find their footing passing wise a little bit, which I do think they will in this game. I don't think it'll be as ugly as it's been for them in the past too. But if they're one-dimensional offensively, if that run game can't generate what they did against Penn State, or even against Bethune, whatever, if it's slowed down, I like FAU's offense to be able to generate consistency and get in a rhythm. And if FIU's only one-dimensional, even if they're able to have a couple big plays here and there, I trust that FAU's offense will be able to get in a rhythm and ultimately win that game. Do I think it will be a blowout like it's been in the past couple of years? I didn't say it was going to be a blowout last year, and ended up being a blowout anyway. So I've been conservative, but I feel like I have to be conservative again. If FAU's able to turn Jenkins over like they did last year when the run game wasn't working for the Panthers, then yeah, I think this game could be a blowout. But I see it being at least a 7 to 10 point game in the favor of FAU. I'm not making any scores. I don't know how the scores will work out. Those are possible. But Kevin, what do you got?
Ooh, I'm not here to predict an FIU win. Let's be clear. I'm not going to be the guy to predict an FIU win during Shula Bowl week, largely because I don't think I'd ever be welcomed on a podcast again if I did that. But I do think this game will be closer. I think this game will come down to the wire in some degree. Maybe not the last possession, but I think in the fourth quarter, you're going to be looking at a one-score game, a game where you have to really prove that you're a different football team. And to FIU's credit again, right? Like, this is a well-coached team. This is a team that I think can provide some issues, especially on defense for FAU's offense. To that same degree, I don't know if I'm too concerned about FAU's defense. I think FAU's defense will be able to do what it did against Maryland, against FAMU, and look competitive and look like they can hold their own. I just look at that pass rush for FIU and go, this can get a little scary, especially with some of FAU's lack of consistency in the run game, the inability to generate the big explosives in the run game consistently. This is a game that really does pan out in some ways towards FIU. Not enough for me to pick them, but I'm going to go FAU over FIU by 5 points because I think this is going to be a game where you have to really prove it. And this is an FIU team that, through all of the media availability clips I've seen, through all of everything, right? Like, they're not making it a secret. This is the game they need to win. And the one thing I am always scared of in football, this is not a statistical thing, is a team that feels like they've got something to prove on their own home field. Because this feels like an FIU team that has something to prove. And so that's why I think this game will be closer than everything else, because I think that this is an FIU team that needs to prove something. And them proving something is beating FAU. I don't think FAU will let that happen. I think Shula Bowl will continue its permanent residency in Boca Raton, 1.8 miles from the beach. But I think it'll be closer.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, what are your kind of thoughts about that, right? We've seen how FIU has approached it, right? Since Willie Simmons' opening press conference, he said they needed to beat the team. I think he said the little team up north or whatever the quote was. But he's made it a focus that they want to beat FAU. And although Kitley is not like he's dusted off the rivalry, he's said he's not naive. He knows it's a rivalry. But at the same time, there hasn't been that level of, I need to go beat FIU. This is what we need to do, Is there a right approach to a rivalry? Is there a wrong approach to a rivalry? What do you kind of think about that?
I think from a fan perspective, you should want both coaches to embrace this as a rivalry. Yeah. You should want both coaches to call the other team little brother, to call the other team little school up north or down south. That's what makes rivalries cool in college football, right? Like, I watched last week Missouri, Kansas, the border war. That game was fun because there was hatred. That game was fun because both teams hated each other. The game, Michigan, Ohio State, right? Like, they hate each other. They don't want either of them to have happiness in life. Maybe we don't need to get to that point, but like, I want FIU and FAU to hate each other. I want this to be a game where people hate each other because that's what makes the rivalry fun, right? Like, this shouldn't be Army-Navy. Like, I love Army-Navy. I love the pureness of Army-Navy. Not every rivalry should be Army-Navy. Like, I think that, like, to the same degree, whatever happened in that first FAU game, right, with the onside kick, with the jawing on Twitter afterwards, I think that's good. I think that's what college football should be, right? Like, this is what, like, I want Willie Simmons to call us the little brother, the little school up north. Like, I hope that's being played in the locker room. I hope people in that locker room knows what they think of FAU, right? And to that same degree, I kind of want FAU to call them the little brother down south. Right? Like, I feel like that's what makes college football perfect. So I know that there might be some FAU fans who don't love, being called the little school up north, and it feels like maybe Willie Simmons is hyping this up as like the biggest game of all time. Man, I love that. I think that's what college football should be. That's what rivalry should be. I feel like every time a schedule is released, the first game you schedule is the game against your rivals. It's not the first game of the year. It's not whatever. It's the first games against the rivals because those are the games you got to win. And so, like, I think, like, I love that Willie Simmons did that. I don't blame Zach Kitley for kind of trying to downplay it a little bit more, right? Trying to say that this may not be the, guys, this is just another football game. But deep down, I hope they know that this is still not just another football game. This is another football game where you got to go out there and beat the brakes off that other team because, man, that's what rivalry should be. And I want this, if you want this rivalry to keep going and be an enjoyable G5 rivalry, there needs to be hatred. Like, that's just point blank what it needs to be, because I look at some of the best G5 rivalries, though they all share a common thread. Both teams hate each other, and that's it. Both teams just hate each other.
Yeah. Kitley's full. I'm not going to read the whole quote, but he said, I asked him if there's any animosity and how he would approach it. Animosity was the first word that popped in my head, but I don't know if that was the right word. But nevertheless, he said, I wouldn't use the word animosity. I told the team it's a big game because the Owls are playing in the game. He went on to say, I'm not naive. I know it's a big rivalry, and I know we've had the upper hand in the series 17-4, something like that. Nobody's naive to the fact that it's a rivalry. It's a big game, the trophy on the line, and all that stuff. But I'm just trying to take it day by day and get our guys to focus on being us, and definitely wouldn't say there's any animosity there, at least from my standpoint. So he's not ignoring the rivalry, but he also isn't jumping headfirst into it. If the FIU student section throws tortillas at their first touchdown, I wonder, what he would think about that.
They should do that. You know what? I think it would be more like Cuban coffee or like empanadas or something. Maybe not tortillas, but they should throw something. That'd be cool.
I know, right? I'm just brainstorming. I hope their student section is brainstorming as well. I know if this was FAU's home game, the student section would be going crazy.
I don't think they'd be throwing anything, unfortunately.
No, probably not.
Probably for the safety of everyone, probably should throw stuff. But
shout out the student section. They were great last week. I'm hoping, I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. If a win occurs this week, I'm hoping in 2 weeks, the marketing team goes crazy during the bye week, and in 2 weeks, it's a nice crowd for Memphis coming up, because that's another thing. This is a big game for a lot of reasons, but it can build momentum in the conference play, which you always want. I don't disagree with either side's approach. Personally, I'm kind of glad Kitley didn't jump headfirst into it. They got to give him a reason to. Herman felt slighted by the onside kick after running it up. Let's see how this game goes. Let's see if there's anything on the field that leads to this, to Kitley and some of the new players kind of jumping right into it. Only 9 players have registered a snap in the Shula Bowl for FAU. There was a couple more guys on the roster, but they did not play. So we shall see 6 p.m. from FIU, from Pitbull Stadium. If you're driving, I hope you drive safe. I hate driving down there.
I send my thoughts and prayers.
It's the worst. But yeah, so I hope to see everyone there. I hope they do buses. If they did buses up to UF, they can get some buses down to FIU. Let's pack the metal cage that is Pitbull Stadium. Before we hop off, I do want to give a shout out to Elijah West, a 3-star recruit for FAU football. Chose the Owls over Arkansas, Georgia Tech, and Michigan State. Recruiting is going well, and you've seen Zach Kitley not afraid to give freshmen a role right away. Josh Roberts had the block punt, 3 pressures. Zion Perrette has been real solid at corner. I think he's only been targeted twice so far, and Brandon Hoke has looked real solid at receiver as well to catch the game against FAMU. So shout out to Elijah. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a trip down to the Shula Bowl. Kevin, any final thoughts?
Go beat them. That's all I know about.
That's what Alex Akovich said. He said, let's keep it rolling in the FIU. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Burrow Shula Bowl edition. Next week, we will be back with a bye-week update edition, hopefully 2-1. We will see you then. For Kevin Fielder, I'm Robbie Lastella. Until next time.